We are live. Hey, we are Huang and
Heiko, and we are the Essence of Truth podcast.
which is all about the freedom and happiness that everybody wants but do not know how to get.
That's absolutely right. And so today we talk about self sabotage and how you can actually turn it into an advantage and how self sabotage can basically lead towards breakthroughs. And I want to kick off the whole session with, a quote from Tony Robbins where it says, like, you either grow or you die. And I think both of us, we really lived that for a very long time. And we also kind of discovered a little flaw in that, so to speak. And I think you're gonna have an amazing session to share about this.
Yeah, it's so funny. As I love, I love martial arts. I love movement in the martial art itself, right? And so very passionate about it. So last week, a couple of days ago, when I was at the gym and I was training, right? And my God, I make a jump, a wushu jump, and there was a little bit of an accident as I land, and my back, it hurts. It hurts like it hurts like a lot. And I was like, hang on. Oh no, something happening over here. Oh no, I couldn't do, more anymore. So I keep on trying and trying. Yes, I use the word try right now. Keep on trying and it doesn't work. It's just to that limit, right? And so I take a little bit of a step back and then I attempt to build up further again. It doesn't get further than that. So afterward, right, when I was continuing to train with another person, well, I started to, when you get so excited, your adrenaline pumping further, and you could avoid a portion of the pain, right? And then it's getting further, you kind of like you don't feel that anymore or as much. So bad move on my end. So I keep on doing it, right? For some time, I think for a couple of hours, and and then at the end of the gym time, I went and I went in the car. I was like, oh, and in so much pain, and it was painful to walk along, right? But back then it wasn't as much. So when I get out of the car, right, I drive home and I get out of the car. Oh my God, when I step out of the car, I could barely walk. I was hurting so much. I feel as if I want to crawl, right, to my third floor. And and I just like, yep, I cannot do my session today. Nope, moving itself hurts. So yeah, lesson learned. Listen to my body better, and I need to warm up better and build up kind of slower instead of keep on moving like that. So in this case, yes, I kind of devolving when I was evolving.
And thank you so much for sharing that because I can definitely relate to it. Like myself doing Wing Chun for a couple of years, but also, with weightlifting or other sports, had several times, and it took me a while to learn this. I had several times instances where I hurt myself and I just kept on doing. Or like I needed to stop immediately, but I couldn't wait for the recovery. I wanted to get back into the game, right? Too early, and then just hurt myself again and made it worse again and just extended the entire healing process. But eventually I learned from these things, and it really, each time it happened, I look deeper into my body, really looking into how my body feels, but also what's that part of my mind that's driving me forward. Because for me, it was the opposite. I never had a problem really to get into action and getting to the gym or doing some exercise. For me, it was more about not doing it. And I was wondering why, because I knew would be bad. I knew I should wait longer. But why is that? And it actually helped me then to explore my subconscious further, where I realized being this level of action taker, being able also to push through the pain, which also I want to highlight here for you, where like, yes, you hurt yourself, but being able to mentally override that pain and still keep on going is actually a very, very strong trait. And so I just want to highlight and celebrate you for this. But coming back to my story, I needed to learn to be calm, focus on healing. And so I realized it became a part of my identity to push through, to be this kind of person. And I tied my self worth to that, so that if, like, the longer I didn't do something like that, the worse I would feel about myself. Even though logically I knew I'm just healing. It's not like, like, yes, I'm losing muscle mass and things, but I didn't, I didn't lose myself. I know I could at any time, once I'm healed, getting back into it. So it wasn't really the big issue. The issue was much deeper. It was on a deep emotional level, and this led me then to a completely new path of evolving into more emotional control, getting more to the subconscious, getting rid of these things that actually led to harmful behavior. Where, like, and then in both of our cases, right, we were devolving physically, but we were evolving mentally. And so for me, this helped tremendously to step onto this path, to go deeper with that and solve the issue for good. And, like, to give you an instance, just 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was in the gym here. It's what's it called? When you push with your legs. Anyway, like, heavy weight, and I did already 4 sets, and then in the fifth set, just something popped in my left hip. I immediately felt pain, and I knew exactly, okay, stopping right here. And other than what you described in the past, I would have just, okay, do something different. I just keep on going. But I was like, nope, I'm walking straight home and giving myself rest. I first look into how my body responds to it, which was pain. But because I stopped immediately, it just took like 2 days until I kind of, could normally walk and stuff again without pain. While before I had exactly the same problem 2 years ago, it actually took almost 8 weeks just because I kept going. And so this one instance, or like those many instances where I hurt myself and was devolving physically, eventually led me to evolve mentally. And so to me, this is a great breakthrough because now I have the balance, and I have still this identity. I can still easily exercise, go into the gym, put myself in an uncomfortable position, but I also have all the tools that I need to get my mind, my emotions in balance, to not having anything diminishing my self-worth in the process if I need to heal. And so thank you so much for sharing this, because it's really brought up this whole process for me again. And I also want to highlight with that, there's also the opposite, where you can evolve in one area, but then de-evolve in other areas, right? Where, like, you can be extremely successful in your business, but then you're struggling in your relationship and your health, and you end up going to marriage counselor and ending up going to the doctor instead of working on your business. So, like, it can go in all kinds of directions, right? And I'm curious. Like, I've talked a lot, but can you relate to this?
Man, I really, really love it when you sharing that. And well, before that, we have a little bit of conversation, and I mean, it's so true. Well, first and foremost, right? When we're spending so much time in our business or in in the entrepreneurial life, right? In the financial part, we evolve in those aspects. But then, if we don't are not careful, we literally, as you were saying that, spending time with doctor appointments, right, and marriage counselor. So the other aspect of our life is literally being ruined by ourselves, by us, because we don't watering it, because we don't allow it to grow, we don't pay attention to it. And one of the quote, which is now excuses if I butchering it over. One of the quote I love is that the one that have health, right, have millions of wishes, I think something like that, and the one without it have only one wish. So can you guys guess what it is? Well, I do know, especially for my own back, right? I mean, I couldn't move like that whole night, right? It hurts, and afterward, the next day, it still hurts a lot. Of course, I could move more. It still hurts, so I couldn't, even go to the gym. So pushing forward in that way, may not be as worth it as much, and I do learn from that. And I really love what you share about, that you tie your self-worth to growth, right, into that, because I do the same. I did the same. I think I still do often these days when I don't do, when I compare myself to others, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much more I could do. And I forgot about, right, where I am at sometimes. And when I do that, I then feel terrible, terrible. And it's not, I don't feel terrible because, I did not, because I did not grow, right? I feel terrible because I did not grow enough in comparison to another person. So I'm wondering, like, as for you guys, when you're growing, right, where do you find that acceptance? Where do you find that? I'm not sure about using the right word, complacent, or like enough in that place, enough for you yourself. And when you do that, right, would it not be more beneficial for you to have the right next step for you instead of having the right next step for the other person? So curious about that. Yeah, it's such a journey for me.
I love that question, and I would love to add to this, and I would love to hear from all of you. Like, when does growth become toxic? And I think, I mean, a lot of our audiences, and like we are a lot in, like, Tony Robbins realms with that. And so we are high achievers, right? We are hardworking, we do all this stuff, but we all also have experiences with burnout and these kind of things, right? And so I'm really curious, like, what are your experiences in terms of overdoing things, pushing too hard, going towards burnout? Like, literally, when does growth become too much for you? I would really love to, get different insights from different people here, because I think we all kind of have different journeys. And I mean, we have like two examples now with physical exercise, which is very tangible, but I find it also goes in every other direction. And I love the quote that you just shared because it's so true. Like, at the end, when our health is diminished, everything else is sucks. Let's just call it. You can't take care of your business or your relationships or anything really when your health is down, when you have no energy, or worst case when you're sick or hurting yourself, right? It just, as you said, you had to cancel your session, right? And
Yeah,
so that's why, to me, health is, and also because I had my autoimmune disease, health really became the number one thing I'm going to take care of. I'm making sure I am fit, I am healthy, which ties also, like, there's all this where all these insights and this evolution for me came from, where I learned I can't just keep pushing myself this way. Yes, I'm growing a lot. Yes, I'm becoming stronger and all these kind of things, but I'm also hurting myself. And especially as long as my self-worth is tied towards it, towards how much I'm doing, then there's a problem there. Because, and as you said, like, any day where I feel like, oh, I didn't do enough, I could have done more, or this person did more than I did, I would feel less about myself. And that's not healthy. And this is not how it should be. Yes, we want, like, competition, or, like, like, kind of comparison in the sense of evolving, of pushing us further to grow. But again, it comes down to, when is growth becoming too much? And I would love, like, what are your thoughts? When do you think growth is becoming too much?
I think the I could dive very, very deep. We could dive very deep into this, right? And I believe we all have our core, not limitation, but I we have our own um, uh, how do you call it, border of growth, right? Just like when I used to do parkour, right, in free running. We don't start with jumping from one building into the very, very far away. We start to very short, right? Like from a small jumping up, right? And we get higher and higher slowly. So that border of growth, right? That border. And when it's become toxic, when I would say when our intention or our attention is not focusing on not focusing on ourselves and what is the next possible step for us, but focusing on the other, right? Look at how far he or she already is, and in that moment, in those moments, in that process, we've forgotten about where we are and how far we could and would be able to jump, because we could get there definitely, right? I believe we could, as long as we pay more attention to, like, how do we build it further, right? How do we move it further? So that in itself is where the difference between toxicity of growing, right, and overextend, and like, and the beauty of really growing, and yeah, well, extending over our border limitation.
I love how you put it into words, especially with the border. There's this border, and you need to be clear about how do I get to the next step. And also I find being aware, being present in where you are, how far you've come, and literally, how do you feel right now? Are you ready? Are you capable of going to the next step, or are you needing, time to process? And this really reminds me, just tomorrow here in Vietnam, or like in Southeast Asia, we have the Lunar New Year, right? The Chinese New Year, and so this year is going to be Year of the Snake, which literally stands for adaptation, transformation, shedding your old skin. And to me, with the border that you just explained, it's literally the way I am approaching it now is where I have milestones that I want to hit, but I'm also very aware of where I'm at. I'm tracking where I'm at, right? So I know when there's this next thing coming, and I feel like, okay, if there's some sense of resistance, where like maybe there's this old part of me coming in again, where like, oh, I need to push further. I'm so close towards it, and I want to push more, even though I feel like, body's breaking down a little bit. These are these warning signs where I really look into, okay, is it really healthy? Would it be sustainable doing this thing? Or would it be actually way more sustainable? I would actually get further if I take a little, like I'm slowing down a little bit now, recover to then move further. And this really helped me a lot. And it helped me realize very early to realize when these old versions are popping up. And I love, this taking this snake as a metaphor where, like, shedding your skin, leaving your old self behind. Because this is literally what I did when I noticed, oh, this part of me is all about self worth. I'm doing this stuff to feel good about myself, but it actually brings me to a part where it's not healthy anymore. So I need to shed the skin. I need to shed this old part of me to step into a new self who's still growing, still evolving, but in a balanced and a sustainable kind of way. And so basically turning devolving into evolving. And so, yeah, I just find it so perfectly to use the metaphor. And like, the year of the snake. And maybe, this could be a great symbol for all of us. Taking the year of the snake where we leave our old self behind and moving into or cultivating a new self. Which brings me to a new question to you guys. What is an old version of you? Sorry. What's an old version of you that you would like to leave behind? Or what's a new version you would love to evolve into? I'm really curious about that. What are your thoughts, Juan?
Mm, that is so important, right? What is the version that we are willing to leave behind? Because everything is a flow. I believe that to be the case, and in life, you're gonna have those moments of evolving and devolving, right? And as long as we're pursuing that, instead of just do nothing, say nothing, that's literally being dead. I think I learned that from Tony. So, what is the part that you are willing to leave behind? Well, I would say for me, pay more attention to comparison to, as I share, comparison to myself for growth, through journaling, through meditation, through sharing even more, and comparison to others for possibilities, not for growth itself, but to measure the possibilities of it. And man, I won't going deep into the detail right now. Um, but I had a conversation with someone, because the sake of privacy, right? I had a conversation with someone, and I hear this person saying that, you saved my life, literally. And I was in shock because I wasn't aware of that, just because of the moment that I am who I am, and I'm in that moment of stability, grounding, and having fun, right? So when we are in the growing part, in the healthy way, within ourselves, we can do so much more, and we made possibly saving life without even aware of that. And luckily, I had a blessing to hear that, and that gave me even more motivation to share more and give more. So don't don't underestimate your present or who you are when you're in a loving place and in that growing pace.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And this is such a great example of the impact that we can have, sometimes unknowingly. And I find it so perfectly how you said it, because you were just in this perfect energy space for it, where coming to the essence of truth of evolution and devolution, and like self-sabotaging yourself. It's like you've been through so much that you get to share your experiences, which then leads to being able to help others, or even just being us here now sharing our experiences with you guys. And so I think this is where the important thing is coming in, where in those moments when we want to beat ourselves up, when we did some self sabotaging behavior, whether it's eating something we shouldn't, whether it's not following up with someone, doing the calls or whatever we need to do, whatever these things are, giving ourselves or somebody else space. And instead of comparison, looking deeper, looking out of the lens of compassion, out of love to ourselves and others, and looking into things that maybe we didn't pay attention before. Because this is exactly what I did to get to the point realizing that I'm tying my self worth towards that. And my self sabotaging behavior stopped without me working on it, by just realizing this and stop getting my self worth from there. But all the stuff was just for me because there was this inner drive where like I need to do more. I need to get the stuff done so I can feel good about myself. Oh, I didn't do this today. Or you asshole, right? You should be doing tomorrow. You're going to do double, something like that. And I think all your high achievers and hard workers are there. You have probably a similar voice. And so, if so, I would love to hear what your voice is saying to you. But with that being said, though, coming from a different lens, with a different energy, and as I said, you just shared it perfectly, right? And the impact you had on somebody else with that, because this is literally the place where you can really turn your self sabotage, where you go from uh, devolving to evolving, where you're utilizing this to go deeper, to learn more about yourself, and to realize this is a part that I might need to let go of, right? Shedding the skin so I can move in the new version of me, the version of me who can achieve this goal in a sustainable way, not beating myself up, not judging myself for the things that I didn't do or didn't do the way I wanted to, and not getting angry with other people because they didn't do it in the way I wanted to, and maybe not even have communicated. And so, thank you so much for sharing this. And this is such a beautiful blessing that you receive for giving your gifts to somebody else.
Yeah. I'm in that space right now. It's yeah, it's kind of my takeaway as well, you know. I really love how you share that, and yeah, the thing that I shedding my skin from, as a snake, it will be where do I tie my self-worth to, right? Do I tie it to the other people, to my own growth, to wherever it is that I'm tying it to, the validation of others, or whatever it is in life. And when I'm not careful, I could literally fall back into, into those disbalanced places. It's so easy when we don't pay attention to, right? As in life, when we walk around, we need balance all the time. Without that balance, without that stability, we can use a different word, of course, we can not even move. Hell, that is the very first thing that we needed when we are as a baby, right? We need to stand up straight and be balanced to be able to move further. And hell, even when we are crawling, right, we need balance to be able to, well, move further crawling, or else we're gonna fall. It's a fact. So it's so important, and sometimes we forget about that, And I really love that you share that, you know. Yeah, and oh yeah, yeah, and one more thing, when you were sharing about that, I loved you telling the story about that it's possible that we do that, we expect the others to do the same without realizing that, and we may not have even communicate that. And I've also been guilty at this, like a couple of times, when I'm unaware, and it keeps so much more motivation, and also allow me to communicate so much better and with much more compassion in after that, and also from, from after that, now and in the near future as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so amazing. And I love, first of all, I want to get back to what you shared with the baby, because I find this is such a great example, right? The first thing we need to do is finding this balance. And we also always need to get back to it, right? And that this is also one thing where I noticed, like, you can push in the direction, but it can also push for so long. You need to rest as well. And I find, basically, I'm usually, I'm even saying, like, I work hard, but also rest hard. And with that meaning, like, I literally have a whole repertoire of things that I do to keep myself in balance. And by now, for doing it for so many years, I'm just instinctively being in the present with my body literally tells me what I need. Is it more physical something? Is it a nice treatment? Is it maybe just being in nature? Sometimes it's the easiest things that we just don't allow ourselves to take care of, because we always think, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to be there, and I need to finish these things. And if I don't, then I'm an asshole and I didn't do enough today. So I feel bad about myself and I can't sleep. It's all just made in here. Right. And so I think this is for me the biggest lesson today, and also a great reminder with the balance that you shared and everything, and all the stories. Literally, like, to me, it's a great refreshing thing to also think about, bringing more balance maybe back into my life. Especially, you know, you guys might know, like, we're planning to move to Austria in a little bit more than a month. And so there's a lot of extra stuff to deal with now. And I notice where, like, I'm drifting off in different direction. Old versions are popping in again. And it's sometimes just slowing down, recognizing what happens, and then dealing what's most important for your well-being, your self-worth first, makes everything else so much more enjoyable. And so this is my takeaway of today. And I'm curious, what is yours, for?
Yeah, I think I say it, and I'm gonna say it again. It's, where does my self-worth being tied to? And I really love that you share that your self-worth was trying to grow, right? For me, it's the same, for growth, and I would say, sometimes to the validation of my, my wushu teacher, like, oh my god, like, I'm champion, right? And being the best, right? Or being the, the gold medal, the champion in certain section. And when those moments arrive, when I don't caught myself, and this is extremely important, the awareness, right? When I don't caught myself, I could lose that self-worth, when I'm not the best, or when I'm, do not have the gold medal, or whatever reason, right? And that is what sport is. So pay attention to that. Where does my self-worth being tied to? Is it to a person? Is it to a certain situation? Is it tied to, the growth? Is it to a certain vision? Whatever it is, when I don't tie myself worth to the changes I made, right? And it is my own growth, instead of anything outside, then I would say it won't be pretty. And when it's not being pretty, with me, then I won't be able to make the impact that, for example, that I get to hear. So lucky and so blessed to be able to hear that. And I bet many of you guys have done that without realizing, or without be able to hear them tell you that you practically save their life.
Yeah. Or maybe even saving yourself in some kind of way, right? And so I love that you shared it, not that you also like brought this point up again, because as I said, you can put so much effort. And you already got, as we can see, like a lot of gold medals and something. But if you're like you always, your mind is always for current achievement, right? So if you're doing this thing and you might not get it now, it's so easy to slip into, I should have been better, I should have done this move better or these things better, right? Just because we didn't get the thing that we wanted, but we don't see all the growth that we actually accomplished to get to where we are right now. And maybe there was a mistake. So what? What does a baby do when it falls down? It's getting up again. Does it, complain about it, beating themselves up? No. It's all just learned behavior. And so I really love that you shared that. And I'm curious for you guys, like what came up for you as you were listening to our stories, the things that we shared, the questions that we ask you, because we really want to co-create the space with you. So any insights, stories, anything that you can share, we would love to read it. And also, if you have any questions for us, then please put them in the comments down below as well. With that being said, though, I'm out for today. I'm wishing you the most amazing rest of the week, and remember who you are.
And remember the power of creation you possess, guy. All right. Take care and
Take
see
care.
you all next time. Bye bye.